Welcome back to the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast. I'm Joe Noga, joined by Paul Hoynes. Hoynes, the Guardians had a little bit of a rally going last night in the seventh inning. Then the eighth inning rolls around, and George Springer steps up to the plate. Eighth career grand slam off of Hunter Gaddis sort of blows the game open. They fall to the Blue Jays in the opener of a three-game series, and it was a final of 10-6. Just what'd you think of the fight that the Guardians at least showed to try and get back into the game before the big home run by Springer?
It was encouraging, Joe, especially after watching them on the West Coast when every run was a struggle. It was good to see them, put more than 4 runs on the board. They came back late. Unfortunately, the bullpen, gave it right back. Couldn't keep them in that game, and they end up losing. But it was encouraging to see the ball fly out of the park, from the Guardians. Santana and Manzardo. It was good to see them swing the bat like that, and encouraging to see Lane Thomas take a step forward.
Yeah, a couple of hits for Lane Thomas. We'll get to that here in a minute. Really the story of the game up until that point, the early part of the game. Eric Lauer, the local kid, Grafton Midview High School product, and Kent State lefty. 5 1/3 innings, 5 hits allowed, 1 run, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. On 86 pitches, he really sort of handed it to the Guardians there over the first 5+ innings until Carlos Santana's solo home run chased him out of the game. Again, they fall back into that formula of you throw a left-hander at them, and this guy had a fastball that Stephen Vogt described as sort of having sneaky life to it at the end, and then he really sort of changed speeds on them a lot, and it really had the Guardians all over the place in the batter's box the first 5 innings of the game.
Yeah, that was discouraging, Joe, because they seem to find a formula on the road against lefties, then to come back and lose to kind of a guy that's not really throwing 97, 98 miles an hour. He's thrown below the hitting speed, crafty, just knows how to pitch, and they had beat a guy like that in J.P. Sears on Sunday in Sacramento, and they just couldn't handle Lauer. So that left-handed starter thing is still alive and well and haunting the Guardians.
Yeah, it was like one step forward, 2 steps back in terms of figuring out that mystery of the left-handers there. Stephen Kwan, a couple of base hits in his first 2 at-bats. Like we said, Lane Thomas got things started in that first inning for the Guardians, back-to-back hits at the top of the order. Then Jose Ramirez grounds into a double play. Our old friend Andres Jimenez fields the ground ball, tags Thomas going from first to second, throws out Jose. Later in the second inning, you saw Andres Jimenez flash the leather that we've seen him play defensively for so long. The last 4 years, he fields a ground ball off the bat of Jonathan Rodriguez that was ticketed for center field. It had about 5 hops. It was behind the bag. It was in the center field grass, and all of a sudden Jimenez, sprawling out on his stomach, stops the ball, throws him out, and prevents a run in that situation. Just how much did you see the Toronto defense being a factor in last night's game?
Yeah, Jimenez really played well. Miles Straw looked like Miles Straw in center field. No ball ever surprises him out there. He catches everything in sight.
He
And
also looked
yeah,
like Miles Straw at the plate, though, so don't worry about that.
yeah. And unfortunately, so did Jimenez. He's not hitting over 200 yet, is he, Joe? So,
No, not
but
yet.
those guys, defense plays, and I'm sure they had some extra incentive about coming to Cleveland for the first time. They had to enjoy that, and they played well. I mean, Jimenez, he's a Gold Glove guy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, a couple of base hits for Ernie Clement as well, including an RBI double in the first inning. The Toronto hitters really sort of ambushed Logan Allen early. He doesn't really give up too many runs typically in the first inning of his starts, but he gave up 2 on Tuesday in the first inning. It was Clement, it was Bo Bichette, and Alejandro Kirk with the RBI base hit to sort of cap the inning. But Logan Allen settled in after that, really sort of battled. Didn't get a lot of help from his defense. Jonathan Rodriguez in right field misplayed a fly ball off the bat of Straw, actually, into 3 bases as the ball hit the top of his glove. rolled all the way to the warning track, and then he couldn't seem to find a way to pick the ball up, and a guy with Straw's speed winds up on third base.
Yeah, double air, Joe. That was a brutal play. I don't know. I mean, hopefully Jonathan Rodriguez settles in. He's getting an extended look here, but we've seen, on the road trip, he swung the bat pretty well. Had a double, had a triple. Vogt is saying he's trying to do the impossible, which is change his swing at the big league level. How many times have we heard that about how many different players on the Guardians? And, who comes up with that suggestion? Why don't they make the swing change in spring training? I mean, that's when you're supposed to do it, not during competition when you're trying to win games. But, that's a suggestion. That's what they're working on. And, that just adds frustration to me, Joe.
Yeah, is the clock ticking on Jonathan Rodriguez in right field after performances last night by Chase DeLauter? I believe he collected a triple in his game for Columbus, and I believe C.J. Kifus hit a grand slam in the ninth inning. These are guys who are hitting the ball, and at some point you need to get a look at one or both of them. I believe Juan Brito was activated in Columbus this morning, so he'll be back on the roster there. We've talked about it on this podcast before. We've mentioned it several times about the idea of, are you going to promote from within to try and turn things around, or are you going to bring somebody from outside the organization? Well, we're getting down to the point where that decision has to be made, and any one of those three names is one that you could see up here in Cleveland in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me, Joe. I mean, you're going to look at your own guys before you maybe trade somebody out of your organization to bring somebody in. So do you look at DeLauter? Do you look at Kifus? Juan Brito probably needs some playing time at Columbus, I would think, just to get his feet back on the ground after, breaking his thumb and having surgery. But DeLauter and Kifus are legit. They've been swinging the bat well. DeLauter has stayed healthy to this point, knock on wood. And, why not, Joe? I mean, if you can play as Jonathan Rodriguez in right field, you can play Chase DeLauter.
Yeah, and the only question, I guess, was after DeLauter wound up on third last night with that triple, how do you feel afterwards? How's the recovery the next day? And that's the main concern, because everything else points to the kid can hit. Let's get him up here and let's see what he can do if you're trying to do that. All right, yeah, the big blow sort of for the Guardians offensively when they finally did, wake up in time off at the plate to get back into the game, sort of before Springer turned the lights out with the grand slam. The big blow was landed by Lane Thomas. I asked Stephen Vogt in the post game, what it means moving forward for these guys if Lane Thomas is swinging the bat like that, as he was sort of expected to, as he was sort of counted on to at the beginning of the season before all the injuries took place. Vogt said that, yeah, anytime our guys are getting multiple hits, they're hitting multiple balls hard. They're working walks like Thomas did. He had a walk before that home run, his at bat. It's great. So, he wasn't really specific about anything Thomas was doing, but, Thomas himself said, he's starting to feel a little bit more like himself at the plate.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, he got a hit on a road trip the last game. He opens, first inning, he gets a single, then he hits a 3-run homer. It's moving in the right direction. All this guy has to do, really, we've seen him stay on the field. And eventually he's going to hit. We saw him go through that terrible slump, immediately after the trade last year. Then he was lights out in September, carried into the ALDS against Detroit. This guy's a streaky hitter. If he gets on a hot streak now, so much the better. But eventually there's going to be a good streak in there as long as he can stay on the field.
Yeah, and I think it's back-to-back games that he's played at Progressive Field. The last game of the homestand before this and the first game of this homestand, he's got 3-run homers in both of those games. So the last game, the getaway game, I believe against Cincinnati, he had a 3-run home run. So, yeah, great to see this happening for Lane Thomas, but if he's doing this now, is he playing his way into becoming a trade asset if the Guardians decide to go in that direction in order to free up room for a guy like a Chase DeLauter or a C.J. Kifus on the roster? The more home runs Lane Thomas hits right now, he's signing his ticket out of town, basically.
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword, Joe. I mean, it all depends what the front office decides. Is this club a contender, or are they going to be a seller at the deadline? The next 2, 3 weeks it will decide that, and it's to Lane Thomas's benefit either way to keep swinging the bat and and making contact and getting hits and playing well. Joe, his swing is so easy when he makes contact on that. I mean, that home run, it didn't look like there was any effort behind it. And I guess that's when you stop thinking and you stop worrying about the position of your hands and feet and where you are in the box, and you just swing, see the ball and swing. And maybe that's a good sign that he's entering that zone.
Yeah, it looked like the ball just sort of jumped off his bat to left field last night from my perspective in the press box. So, really good to see. And it sounds really good coming off the bat of Lane Thomas. When he makes contact, it really does that. I just want to mention Quan back is average up to 310 now. 27th multi-hit game of the season for Stephen Kwan. 6th straight multi-hit game against Toronto. Kwan likes hitting against Toronto, man. Multiple hits almost every time he plays against them. So it was the longest streak by a Cleveland player against Toronto for multi-hit games since Brooke Jacoby in 1985. You got to go back to Brooke Jacoby.
My favorite guy.
The last time a Cleveland player had 6 straight multi-hit games against the Birds. Brooke Jacoby was your favorite?
Oh, he's my favorite player. One of my favorites of all time.
Just a good dude. I remember, just you talking about him and those kinds of things. So, yeah, Quan hitting the ball well. Carlos Santana with the solo home run in the 6th inning. It was his 200th home run in a Cleveland uniform. That's one behind Earl Averill for 5th place on the franchise all-time list. That's, the next home run Carlos Santana hits, he'll be tied for 5th in all-time in Cleveland history.
Yeah, you think about that, Joe, and you think about this guy, third tour in Cleveland, and you don't really realize the stats behind him and how good a hitter he actually has been his whole career. I mean, the guy is over 300, he's approaching 340 home runs. I mean, that's a lot of home runs. And we've talked about it before. You're borderline Hall of Fame consideration then. Switch hitter, one of the best switch hitters in history, certainly one of the best switch hitters in Cleveland history, and over 900 walks. He does it, just kind of on the back burner. You don't really notice him, and just really an interesting career by Carlos.
Yeah, and we've said it before. I think one of the craziest stats for him is the 1,300 walks. He's walked over 22 miles
Yeah.
between home plate and first base in his career. That's just an amazing stat. Another weird stat I just want to throw out there, from last night's game, Kyle Manzardo, solo home run in the bottom of the 9th to make it 10-6. It was his 5th home run this year on the first pitch of an at-bat. So 5 of his 12 home runs have come on the first pitch of the at-bat. That's just, to me, you're not reading the scouting report against this guy if you're giving up a home run on the first pitch.
Yeah, and what does that say about a hitter, Joe? I mean, what does that say about Manzardo? That A, is he afraid to get too deep in the count, or B, is he so confident that the first pitch he sees, he's just gonna let the bat go? I mean, it's a weird stat, and he always talks about, I'm looking for a pitch up. I want to hunt something over the middle of the plate. So if you do that as a pitcher, you're going to be taken deep almost. He's got a really good chance of taking you deep.
Yeah, he's out there hunting his pitch and he's getting it. That's what it's saying.
Just another factor, and this guy deserves to play more. We got to see more of this guy.
Yeah, and that's definitely the case. All right, let's jump into some Hey Hoynesy questions. We've got a few here submitted. Want to jump into them, and the first one comes from our friend Virgil Hauser in Gustavus, Ohio. Another fan wanting to trade Class A for a power hitter. If someone needs a closer like Class A, who would they give up? No team is going to do that. An organization that fills from within. DeLauder and Bazana have to be up here by August 1st. I don't think Travis Bazana is going anywhere because he's on the injured list. We probably won't see him until August. But we just discussed Chase DeLauder. Just what do you think of the idea that trading Class A for a power hitter won't work? We've talked yesterday about how they might have to get a third team involved.
Yeah, I think that is really a difficult question for me that because the guy he's on a club friendly contract, but it also makes Class A really, really attractive from the outside because what he's signed for one more year, like at 6 million. Then the two club options are worth 10 million each. With a buyout, that's really affordable for a closer in as an elite closer like Class A has shown he is. Just really an interesting situation for the front office. And I'm not sure which way they're going to go, but if you're a contender, Joe, if they think you think this team is playoff worthy, has a shot at it, a legitimate shot, I don't think you can trade Class A. I really don't. I know you have Cade Smith backing him up, and we saw Cade Smith save back-to-back games, I believe, against the Yankees when they didn't use him when Class A was down with a sore shoulder. But we haven't seen Cade Smith do it. Over a week, over 2 weeks, over 3 weeks, over a month. So, we've seen Class A do it. So, I don't know. That's the thing that's holding me back from making a trade for him.
Yeah, you talk about those two option years. I can tell you this: if the organization continues to operate the way that it has over the past, decade plus, some organization will be paying those two option years, the 10 million years, the two $10 million years for Class A. It won't be Cleveland that's paying those $10 million option years. It's almost a guarantee. So look it up. As far as our next question, this comes from Jim Harris in Newark. He says, I like the lineup that had Jones and Thomas in the outfield with Schneemann at second. Don't like changing it up every day. You can use Angel Martinez as a player every 3 to 4 games to give a player a day off so he can rotate. I sometimes think analytics just don't help the game. So what do you think about the role of analytics plays in constructing the lineup and the idea of this interchangeable parts that Stephen Vogt has pretty much operated with the entire time he's been the manager of the Guardians?
Well, I think analytics are definitely play a role in making Cleveland's lineup every day. The way it switches around, they move around. You've got three guys in there that play every day in Kwan, Ramirez, and Santana, and then everybody else is interchangeable. The analytics definitely plays a role in that. I like Martinez in the lineup more than 3 or 4 days, more than every 3 or 4 days. I would think he helps you out in center field, he helps you out at second base. But Schneemann, has played well too. So you can make a case for all those guys. But I'm not, I'm not down on analytics. I would like to see a little more stability in the lineup, though.
Yeah, so it's sort of a half answer there. You
Yeah.
agree with him that you don't like the swapping out every so often. You want to see guys play a little more. And the part that we sort of skipped over there was having Nolan Jones playing every day in the lineup as well. I mean, this is a guy who's almost reverse splits against left-handed pitching. You could start him against a lefty, I think, and see a little bit more out of him. So that might be the case as well. Our last question comes from Jay Miller in Boston. He wants to know, when will Stephen Vogt realize that Hunter Gaddis is not throwing the ball well and take him out of the setup role? He was asked, Stephen Vogt was asked about Hunter Gaddis last night after the game. He said, obviously, Gaddy, that was not his cleanest inning. They got the great play at home plate where they challenged the tag and Andres Jimenez was ruled out at the plate. Then Alejandro Kirk walks, and he just didn't get his fastball up to George Springer. Really, two fastballs in that outing to Jimenez and to George Springer that he didn't get locate. He said, Gaddy's been phenomenal this year. He's going to be right back out there. The next time the situation pops up and we're in that situation in a game, it's a little different when they're behind in a game, said Vogt, and getting some runs would have helped in that situation. So yeah, Hunter Gaddis. What have you noticed about him, Hoynesy?
I noticed, he's given up a lot of more inherited runners than he did last year, Joe. But I mean, he's still, when you take just a look at, across the board, his stats are very, very good. They're just not last year's stats. But for a long time, he's been the only reliever out of the big four with an ERA under 2. So, he has pitched pretty well. He does at times look tired to me, Joe. It looks like they use him a lot. They've used him a lot last year. I think he was second overall in appearances during the regular season. He made like 9 or 10 more appearances in the postseason, and vote goes to this guy. He does not shy away from Gaddis, and there's just some times where it just looks like his stuff is just a tick or two off.
Yeah, and the manager's confidence in Gaddis is not going to go away. He's very confident in what he's got with Hunter Gaddis. I think you also have to keep in mind up until spring training of last year, Hunter Gaddis was a starter, and he's not used to pitching 76 times in a season. He's used to pitching 30 times in a season, and those outings being a little longer. So maybe that has something to do with it, and maybe the wear catches up with you a little bit. But you also grow into that role and mature into that role, and I'm sure he's still got plenty left in the tank for the stretch run of this season. That's going to wrap up our Hey Hoynesy segment of the podcast. What do you think? These video podcasts going well, Hoynesy. I think we stick with them a little bit.
Yeah, Joe, it's kind of fun. I hate looking at myself.
Yeah.
I want it's awful early in the morning to look at that mug and right back at you. But yeah, it's been fun.
You and me both, brother. I'll tell you what. I did do some rearranging of my bobblehead wall. I think I might change up the background here a little bit. I've got the ballparks behind me right now.
Yeah, I like it.
We'll rotate in, so we'll see how that goes. But moving forward, I like it, and keep submitting your questions for Hey Hoynesy. If you want to join our subtext and get updates from Hoynesy and from myself, go to cleveland.com/subtext. It's $3.99 a month, and you get access to sort of the behind the scenes takes that we have, and you get an opportunity to be the first ones to send us questions that we can read on the air, like our good friend Virgil, who's always up for sending us in a question. That's going to wrap up today's edition. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Good deal.